Good morning, everyone. My name is Kim McCurdy. I'm an executive assistant in the Office of Post-Secondary and Higher Education at Pennsylvania Department of Education. And it's great to be with you today for this webinar in collaboration with the Pennsylvania School Counseling Association. This is, I believe, the third time we've collaborated, and in the past we've done it in person. So this is a little different than the usual format, but we're really happy that we're able to still come to you for these important discussions. And I've definitely collaborated with some of you in the past in prior roles. I've been with the department for 6 months now, and know that it's really important to keep conversations going, to collaborate, to network, and to continue to lift each other up as we go through COVID and all of the other challenges that working from home and restarting a school year with uncertainty, all of that bring just apprehension and anxiety. And so as we launch this first counselor symposium, we hope that you'll take away some things today that will help you as you go through your academic year. We wanted to focus on counselors for this first session. School counselors are probably one of the most important people in the building. So it's really important to make sure that we focus on self-care, that we do what we need to do for ourselves first so that we can be of service to others. So I do invite you to take a look at the screen. We have the agenda for this morning. We have some folks from the University of Pittsburgh who are going to be conducting our presentation. We are not able to do the breakout sessions as planned, but I believe that there is an alternative activity planned. And then Noe Ortega, who is currently the Deputy Secretary of Post-Secondary and Higher Education, he will be joining us at 10:15 for some closing remarks. So at this time, I just want to say welcome again, and I invite you to reach out to me if I can be of any use to you as you go through your academic year. And I'd like to turn it over now to Dr. Mary Margaret Kerr from the Health and Human Service Development and Psychiatry Department at University of Pittsburgh. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you all for doing this. I know you have many other things you could be doing, and I'm delighted that you're taking care of yourself today. When Jen asked me who would be good to talk with you about self-care, I knew the answer right away, and I was so pleased when Professor Toya Jones said that she would be able to join you. I've known Toya now for several years, and she's very generous with her time, but most importantly, she really gets what you're doing. Toya has been a therapist herself, including therapy with victims of violence at our own Center for Violence, or Center for Victims. She's probably done training with every therapist in the city of Pittsburgh. And she really does have a wonderful handle on the demands of being a therapist, being a mom, being a wife, and even being a doctoral student in the School of Education. And I'm so pleased that when Toya chose to do her doctorate, she chose to do it in what I think of as our field. So it is a real honor and with great excitement that I present to you Professor Toya Jones, who is Director of the Bachelor's Program in Social Work at the University of Pittsburgh.
Thank you so much. I just really love Dr. Kerr's introductions, and I wish I could just give her a stipend just to introduce me every time I walk into my house or something like that. It's just so full of admiration. I really appreciate that introduction. Well, good morning, everyone. I am really pleased to be here. I thank you for the invitation. I really am grateful for you attending and watching this morning. What I know about counselors, therapists, we rarely take care of ourselves. We take care of everyone else, and we fall to the wayside sometimes. So I'm really glad that you decided to take some time for yourself this morning. So we'll get started with what I have planned for you this morning. And let's get started. Okay, so we're going to talk about identifying and managing stress this morning. It's so important for us as counselors to take care of ourselves and to really pay attention to stress and how our brains and our bodies react to stress. And so today we're going to talk about stress responses. What are they? What are some typical stress responses? And why might we be experiencing these stress reactions? What are situations and circumstances that really personally have us react to that stress and in that moment? It differs from person to person. And what specifically are my stress reactions and what it feels like in my body and how my brain is affected by that stress. And then we'll end with what can we do to manage the stress? That's why you're here today. You want to know, what can I do to help alleviate this stress? Okay, so let's talk about what are some stress responses. What are some common responses? So I have a little story here. I was doing a training, and as Dr. Kerr mentioned, I do lots of trainings about stress and PTSD and vicarious trauma and all those stressors that we can have and all that distress that we could feel in our brain and our body. And I was talking about that to a group of therapists and counselors. And I explained all the different reactions and how our body can react and how we can have headaches and muscle tension in our stomach. And I talked about having dreams and sleeplessness or, restlessness at night, feeling angry or passive aggressive, or just really feeling overwhelmed, using alcohol to fall asleep, or, just excess in misuse of substance. And I was describing some of these symptoms. I started to think to myself, I'm having sleeplessness and I'm restless. And you know what? My stomach's not been right all week. And as I'm talking, can you imagine, as I'm talking to a crowd of folks and I'm the expert in this, I looked at my co-facilitator and I mouthed to her, "This is me." And she said, "Oh my goodness." I was, just discovering that, I am experiencing some of these symptoms. And what I needed to do right after that training is to put in some vacation days. And I did just that. I had to take care of myself. And so that's why I'm giving that message to you all today, that we have to pay attention to what's going on in our body, changes in our mood, and changes in our behavior. And this list I put together because these are some of the common reactions that we have to stress. This is how our bodies and our brains respond to stress. Look at that list. Does this look familiar? Okay, so let's think about, why might you experience stress? You can experience stress for all sorts of reasons. And one, I went and talked to some of my educator friends, and I talked to my therapist and my counselor friends, and they came up with a list. So think about that for yourself just for a few minutes. Why might you become stressed? And I wonder if some of the points that you thought about or scribbled down, does it relate to what my friends have talked about? I put etc. because I bet we could fill this whole entire slide, right? The COVID-19, we already start the school year jittery. We're already excited and we're a little anxious about, our new students and, who we're gonna have, even with me, I teach the bachelor's college level, I still get anxious and excited, but COVID took the fun excitement away and just filled it all up with anxiety. And what we are to expect going into the school, how can we teach with masks on? How can we help? And for the counselors, doing counseling with a mask on, that takes away a lot of what we can usually do. We read facial expressions. We look at their eyes, yes, but we look at that curl in the mouth, or it's a small frown, even though they said, I'm fine. And they had that look down here below that I'm not fine. Now that's cut off, and our brain is trying to figure out how I can read this body language and how I can read these facial expressions. It's not just what folks are saying with their words. And that takes away from some of, our ability, our superpowers as counselors, to be able to read someone and to know what their mood is and to know how they're really experiencing life right now. And that's really, really hard to do. How about our traditional methods that we use? We give hugs, and hugs alleviate a lot of distress and pain from our students and from our colleagues, from our coworkers, and we can't do that anymore. We have to distantly, and elbow bumping is just not the same as giving a nice hug and really feeling that care from another person. And so that is just really, really hard to do. And, that racial inequality that has really hit our country, it's not new, but it's really affecting our students of color and our colleagues of color. And so how are we able to really hold that pain and hold that space for them if we can't use our traditional methods? And it's just really, really a huge change. So we know that stress can come from all different angles. Coworkers can bring in stress, with whatever they're dealing with. Students every day, how are they adjusting to this? How are they able to sit in class and pay attention and deal with their home life? If their home life is anything like mine, everyone's home. There's kids are back here, there's desks downstairs, everyone is home working, everyone is home schooling. And so just thinking about the time, well, yeah, I have a presentation this morning, and I'm even talking to the dog. You have to be quiet, Thor, that's his name. And so it's really difficult to manage your home life and balance that, and have to go out into the real world and really try to protect yourself and those around you from the COVID virus. It's very, very stressful. And so your worlds are colliding. Then you don't stop living. You don't stop having your own personal life. And so that's where that square down below is. Events, all sorts of things keep happening. Life keeps going on. Life doesn't care if you have all this extra stress. It keeps happening. It keeps building and compiling. And so a lot of times we find ourselves overwhelmed. Of course you're overwhelmed. There's so much to deal with. There's so many different angles. It's so new. It's so unexpected. We don't know what we're going to find out in the news the next day. And we find ourselves as counselors right smack in the middle. And so sometimes we have self-induced stress where, yes, we find all these different angles that are coming our way. And stress is coming from all these different angles. However, some things we are causing ourselves, not on purpose. We're not, punishing ourselves in any way, but it's in our nature to be that rescuer and to help others get through situations, even if it's not in our job description. We don't really care. We are counselors, we are helpers, and we are going to help. And it is something that we go to quickly. So that's why I have the superhero flying to the rescue of our coworkers and flying to the rescue of our students. We are in that position and we are constantly helping, but that is draining you all. That is tiring. That in itself can cause a lot of stress. And we want to do things exactly the way we used to do it. And so if we feel like we're slipping in any way, we're feeling like we are being inadequate and we are not doing what we were called to do. And that really can put a lot of fear of failure and doubt in us. And that leaves you completely empty. You are depleted. And then that leads to an unhealthy lifestyle. They call it the quarantine 15, but I have baked and cooked so many different things just to alleviate stress. Everyone, I think we're all healthy in our family because I'm making a pound cake and I'm making cupcakes. And how about some chocolate chip pancakes this morning, everyone? And that really alleviates stress. However, eating too much of that sugary carbs is unhealthy. And then we have, you know, sometimes we're falling into overdoing it, overworking, just to compensate that inner critic that says you're not doing enough. I put blurred boundaries in there because a lot of times, because we're working in a way that we're not so used to working, you know, there's some working from home time, and then there's some working at the school, and you find yourself being there way longer than you usually would because you're trying to solve all the problems. There's lots of blurred boundaries. We find ourselves saying yes when we really should say, no, not this time. I'm not quite prepared for that, or I'm not ready for that, or I can't handle that right now. We find ourselves doing that. And isolation. So because we have to quarantine and we have to stay away from certain crowds, sometimes we are isolating. We're doing our job and we're going home and we're staying to ourselves and we're not allowing that social interaction to happen. That can cause us to be highly, highly under lots and lots of stress. So I have sent a mini body, and I want us to talk specifically about where we are feeling stress in our body. Now, this is all about you and not about anyone else. What are you experiencing in your body? So your outline looks like a little gingerbread, and you receive that in your handouts. So grab that piece of paper, or if you have it in the computer, you can just think about where you experience your stress. And so what are some of your common responses? Do you experience the headache? Are you experiencing sadness, anxiety, stomach upset? Okay, and you're going to write that wherever you're experiencing that in your body. If you experience anxiety in your stomach or in your chest or in your head, or if you're experiencing, okay? And so put those common emotions, and it could be sadness or fear, put those common emotions where you most feel it in your body. So we're gonna take just a couple minutes to do that. Okay, so some of you might have written all over your body, and others, you might contain that stress in one area. I did this same activity with a child that was a client, a therapy client, and all of her anxiety and all of her stress was right in her stomach. And as you can imagine, because you're counselors too, she had so many digestive issues. Her tummy hurt every day. She had problems keeping food down, and was taken to the doctors. Mom could not figure out what was the matter. Doctors said nothing. You know, they could not diagnose her with anything. And it was all because of that anxiety and stress in her stomach. And so once we did this exercise, we could see that she held all of that in her tummy area. Then we could use some of our techniques to get rid of that anxiety. And she was feeling a whole lot better. Why is it important for you to know how you experience stress? And why is it important to know what that feels like in your body? And you can write that in the chat too. If you thought to yourself, because it's important because I may not even know that I'm reacting to something until I experience it in my body. You got it right. We feel stress. I feel stress in my shoulders. I feel stress and anxiety in my stomach and in my chest. I know that about Toya. And when I am feeling that, oh, why am I feeling this heaviness, or why am I feeling this shoulder type of activity? I know that something is bothering me, and I might not even think about it until I experience that in my actual body. And I'll say to myself, what is it that I'm thinking about? What is it that I just experienced? Why did I have that reaction? I'm also a CBTer, so that's cognitive behavioral therapy. And I teach that at Pitt as well. And I teach the students to think about and to help their clients think about what they're thinking about, right? And what were you just thinking about, and why did your body react to that? This is why I'm saying you may have a stomach ache, or you might have your chest. Why is my chest heavy? And I'm walking into the building, you know, for what? There's nothing. Why do you have this whole doom feeling? There's nothing bad happening. Why? Because you might have been thinking about, you know, a student, and you know they're really struggling, or you might be thinking about a coworker and they really left you with a lot of their heaviness yesterday. We bear a lot of folks' burdens, and we carry it along with our own. So it's important for us to know how we are actually feeling in our body. Okay, let's talk about how the stress affects our brain. So stress is not just, it's all, you know, you're being emotional, or you're reacting, or you can't handle it, or anything like that, because we do that to ourselves. Why can't I handle this? I've been through harder things or tougher things. It's not that we can't handle it. It's our brain is actually reacting and going through a series of steps. And so let's talk about how our brain gets information through our senses. And so we see and we hear, we touch, we taste, we smell different elements or stimulus in the air, and it goes into our brain. Think about the most wonderful memory we can think about. Perhaps you're thinking about the last time you were able to go on a vacation outside of your back porch or your front yard, when we were actually able to get into an airplane or a bus and go somewhere with lots of people. So right now my brain clicks to the beach because it is my favorite place, and all of my beach plans were canceled for the summer. I'm smiling to prevent myself from frowning, but we had all these plans. But the last time I was at the beach, I can remember blue, aqua blue. Okay, I can hear the waves. Even as I'm talking to you, I can hear the crashing of waves. I can see the big puffy clouds, the very, very hot sun beating on my face. It's so wonderful. My brown skin absorbs all of the sun. And so I am just very, very hot when I'm on the beach. And I like the heat. I know some of y'all are going, ooh, but I love the heat. And the smell of the ocean, that saltiness, you get a little grain of sand in your mouth. Just notice all of those different elements you could remember when you were going back intentionally thinking about that. Or you might be a mountain person, and that crisp air in the mountains, how you can see the stars crystal clear when you are hiking and when you are camping. That might be your memory. But notice that it's all coming in through the five senses and laying down in your brain. Well, that same thing happens when you're experiencing distress, but not in that really nice, warm way that we just experienced. You are thinking about, and your brain is storing that information. Now, when a stressful situation comes that's similar, it can reactivate the brain to think that that same thing is happening. So think about a COVID message that you received, or think about some bad news that you received. Don't think too hard. We don't want to take you all the way there, but just think about how that affected your brain and how you reacted to that stressful event. I remember when we first started back up at Pitt, when we went, you know, offline, online and out of the classroom pretty suddenly in the spring. And I remember that we were changing our colors. I don't know if y'all noticed, we went from that navy blue and gold to this bright blue and yellow. And there was all these changes that were happening, and I was pretty much don't want anything else to change. There's so much going on. We're learning this new system called Canvas. We're learning this whole world of Zoom and how to really just get on Zoom and figure out how to teach our courses. And it was really stressful, y'all. And so I remember hearing all of these different messages, and my brain was giving off signals like a smoke detector. This is stressful, and how are you going to handle all this? You have to learn all this so quickly. And I remember those alarms going off. So a similar situation happened. It wasn't the actual change going from the classroom to Zoom and learning this new computer stuff, Canvas. It was simply the different colors, going from navy to gold to the light blue to the yellow. And I remember getting stressed out. Why are they changing the colors on my screen? Why did they change this? You know, that is not stressful in and of itself, but it reminded me of that big change. And my brain and my body reactivated and told my whole brain, you are experiencing this distress all over again. But I really wasn't. I was just remembering. I was not re-experiencing. It's actually a process that's happening in the body. So let's go a little bit in the brain. Let's go a little bit deeper, okay? So in the brain, we have the limbic system, and within the limbic system is the amygdala and the hypothalamus, okay? And so the amygdala, it acts like the smoke detector. I often call this, because I explain this to children, I say, this is Amy. And Amy is taking in all the information, she's typing, and she's sending out the messages to the body. The brain stem is the secret service of the brain. So the brain stem looks around and detects any type of danger, anything potentially harmful to the host, to the body, right? And the brain stem says, this is stressful, this is harmful to us, and it tells the amygdala, or Amy, to send out the signals. How are we going to react to this situation? And so the hypothalamus hears the alarm and says, okay, we need, and that's that's the emotional brain. We need to react to this. How are we going to react? The frontal lobe, the prefrontal cortex, says, listen, you all are doing too much. I need to check out of here. I'm gonna go over here and get away from all this calamity, okay? And it checks out, what is the function of the neocortex, or that prefrontal lobe? What's the functions of that? That's your executive authority. That is your decision-making, okay? That's the brain that has reasoning and problem solving and planning. If that part of the brain gets cut off, oh boy, we're in trouble, because we can't think, Toya, they're just changing the colors. They're not changing anything else right now. Calm down, lady. That part went away, and that reactive, or that automatic system, the autonomic nervous system, takes hold, takes control, and I automatically responded in a stressful way. It sent out a signal, that fight, flight, or freeze in my body. And I'm telling you, I think I froze, because my muscles got so tight, and I'm like, no more colors, right? And so it's really sending out that cortisol, that adrenaline, and telling your body to react to the stress. It is not just a fictitious happening. It's really happening in your body, and it's a biological response. Let's think of something that is very, very common, and we'll break it down even more. Who has ever lost their cell phone? This is my precious baby. I have my babies on there, but this is my precious baby. I don't know anyone's number except my mom's number, and that's probably just about it. I barely know my own phone number. So if I lose this cell phone, I don't really know what I have to do today. I have my calendar, my links. Is anyone understanding what I mean? It's really, really stressful if I lose my cell phone. And it seems like every time I talk about stress and losing cell phone, I lose my cell phone that week. So I lost my cell phone, y'all, this week. And I remember going through that fight, flight, or freeze. I hit all three, y'all. And my fight response was, I have two kids, okay, 2 school-age children. And I said, who took my cell phone? I just automatically accused everyone in the house. My significant other, I accused him too. Well, you took my cell phone. What in the world would he need with a cell phone? I accused my children, especially the older one. He just looked guilty. You took it. What did you do with it? You moved it. You know, meanwhile, he has his own cell phone. He's a teenager. He didn't need it. And that was my fight response. You know, I even looked sideways at the dog. Maybe you had something to do with it. And I was ready. Who took my cell phone? Then I went into running around the house, upstairs, downstairs. I went outside. Where did I leave it? I'm looking under the covers. Where's my cell phone? That's my flight response. Then I settled into freeze. I said, I can't remember or think where I left my cell phone. Why? Because my frontal lobe was shut off. I was in a panic. I need to know what I'm doing today. So I remember my son saying, Mom, just think about where you left it last, because this is what I say to them every time they lose something. And I said, I can't think of where I left it. I really couldn't think of where I left it. I had to get my brain and my body to calm down and bring myself back into the parasympathetic branch of my whole brain and my body and say, calm down, so that my frontal lobe can kick back in. Where is my cell phone? So once I was able to take a couple deep breaths, I understood and see that right there. I need to get my thinking brain to shut off the alarm and help calm my body and my brain down, okay? And so that is the parasympathetic branch. Slower, deeper respiration, slow down my heartbeat, take some breaths, and calm down. Now, the prefrontal lobe said, hey, look right underneath all the papers that you have right there on your desk. And it was right there. Or sometimes I'll think, you do have a finder on your watch. If y'all have these fancy watches, all I have to do is push a button. I didn't think about that at all. My husband said, did you push the button on your watch? No. You know, you can't think of that. Your logical brain shut off. And so once I was able to calm my brain and my body down through a couple different techniques, and we're going to talk about some of that too, through the app that I'm going to share with you, I was able to calm down. Okay? And so I found my cell phone quite quickly. Let's use this scenario. We're going to help a coworker. We're going to help them with this issue, and we're going to think about what are some of the reaction that they had. So I'm going to read it just in case you can't see everything, and we'll discuss. Okay, I'll admit, I started the school year with a mix of excitement and a bit of panic from the uncertainties that COVID-19 brings. Could I keep up with the changes and do my work well? Now I skip lunch, rarely stop to drink even a glass of water, and work late nearly every day. I don't have time to focus on my home life. I fight hard to make sure the students are adjusting to this new normal the best I can. And I try to help my coworkers too. How can I help them with their problems when I am barely able to help myself at times? I just feel like I can't do enough, and I'm always on edge. I feel like if one more demand is put on me, I'm going to burst. This describes some of our coworkers, and it might describe yourself. What are some fight, flight, or freeze responses going on here? What are some of those common stress responses that this coworker is experiencing? We can answer in chat. Yes, definitely anger, frustration. Mm-hmm. Anger, frustration, hopelessness, you bet, you bet. I'm gonna even flip back. Let's look. Wait. Sorry, I'm making y'all dizzy. Where is it at? There we go. Mm-hmm. Lots of anxiety, right? Feeling overwhelmed. Anger came out in the end. I'm gonna burst. We'll go off on somebody, right? Probably lots of muscle tension. And so we hear these scenarios. If you're anything like me, and I think you are, we get folks coming in to our office or emailing us and describing this sort of reaction, describing how they are really, really overwhelmed. And we jump right into, I have to help you. That is in our nature. We have to think about what we can do. And a lot of times we get that residue. We get slimed by other folks, and they don't mean to. They know this is what we do. And we say, yes, we do it. And we'll be there to help. But they might have hit us at a time where we are really overwhelmed and we really can't handle all of that stuff right now. Maybe come back in 10 minutes and I'll have you, I'll help you out then. But there's a lot of stress on all of us. And so it's really difficult to manage that stress. So I have a helpful tip. Well, I have lots of tips, and I call them Toya tips. I have lots of them, but one way is managing your stress reactions through the PTSD Coach app. And I know that you do not have to be diagnosed with PTSD in order to benefit from this app. This app I've used for many years. I'm so glad that they created this app because I mostly see folks that, I see folks on a very broad spectrum, but a lot of I see veterans and those that have PTSD, severe and moderate PTSD, but I see folks like educators and folks that have regular lives with lots of stress. And the PTSD Coach app is very, very helpful for folks because it goes where you go. It's very, very, very convenient. So we're going to take this time. We were going to do this live and in breakouts and all that sort of thing. So we'll have to do it and it'll be kind of silent, but we'll have to do it on our own. What I would like everyone to do right now is to download the app. And this is how you can download it. I have an iPhone, so I went right to my store and loaded it in my app store and put PTSD Coach and just download it. It's free. Google Play for Android folks. You can even put it on your desktop if you don't have a smartphone. And that is the link right there. So I'm going to just take a few minutes and you can go ahead and give me your response once you have the app downloaded. And we're going to try one of the 3 suggestions and report back. So some of these things, we're going to look through the app once you download it. So just share in the chat. Let me know when you have gotten that downloaded on your phone. And I will wait until we get everyone with the app downloaded. As you can see, I'm making sure that you get this app so that you can help yourself at any time. Wow, y'all are fast, y'all. So it'll look like this and that. You're welcome, Lillian. That's wonderful. Thank you for your service. Oh, all right, Becky. You already had the app. It's great. It certainly is. I use it myself. After all these years, I still use this app. Nice. If anyone is having trouble, please let me know. Anyone still working on getting it? Tell me, hold up. If not, I'm going to move and we're going to look through the app. Okay, let's take a look around. So what we're seeing here is the front page. So I'm going to walk through. You press on your app, of course. There's some things you can put in to personalize it. That's what I really like about it. You can personalize it and you can put all of the different tools that work best for you, and you can put them in one area. You can put in a connection or support, someone that, you know, I want to call grandma or I'm going to call dad, and you're putting that in your app, and that's a reminder for when that prefrontal lobe cuts off and doesn't allow you to think about what to do next. The app can give you a good reminder about what tools are helpful to you and what folks are helpful to you. So here we are, open to a world of relaxation. So you can work your way down through here. Oops, sorry, I got too excited. You can work your way all the way through here. But what we're going to do, we're going to concentrate on one, and we're going to use that this morning and give feedback. So we were going to have breakout groups, and your groups were going to talk specifically about what tool you use and report back, but we're just going to do that all on ourselves. And I didn't want to just choose one for you. So you have a choice. I want you to not forget to rate your distress. How else will you know if the tool was helpful if you don't rate your distress? Now you might say, Toya, I don't feel distressed right now. I feel pretty calm. That's okay. Think about what your symptoms or what your responses are to stress and how you may react or how your stress might react to this actual tool. Will my stress go down? Will these thoughts, you know, this critic, this inner critic, will that decrease from this actual tool? You can think about it that way. Okay, so what I would like you to do, not in your group because that's not going to happen this morning, but you're going to try one of these exercises. Try the body scan, Julia. That's 9 minutes. Or try the deep breathing for 5 minutes. Or you can try the observed thoughts. And I chose some really common tools like the deep breathing and the muscle progression. These are things that we often do, and you know about it. I'm speaking your language, counselors. These are some things that we often have, students do, and we often have our thoughts racing and things like that. So these are some really nice common tools that we can use ourselves pretty quickly, or we can give them to our colleagues and tell them to download the app, okay? So go ahead and choose one now and go through, actually listen, do what it leads you to do, and then we're going to chat about what that experience was like for you. when you've completed your exercise, just jump in the chat and let me know. So as you come back from your relaxation, this is my relaxation voice. This means you are relaxed. Once I start talking like this, that's my relaxation voice. Okay, how was that? Put in chat, which one did you use? Some of you already did that. Thank you, Diane. Deep breathing, done. Amelia, so relaxed. I love it. What did y'all do? Which one did you choose? Body scan, Julia, deep breathing or observed thoughts? Oh, that's so good, Nakia. It's very relaxing. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. Did you remember to rate your distress? And that's for the future too. If it wasn't relaxing, that's okay. Don't give up on you. That just means that one wasn't relaxing for you and you'll try another one. So I'll tell you a very funny story. So I was looking for this relaxation for a client. He said, you know, water is relaxing for him. And so I was going through some different sounds and trying to make sure there was something that was relaxing for him, right? And so I got this, and this tells you, this dates it a little bit. I got this CD and it was a waterfall CD. And guess what, everyone? Toya does not relax with waterfall noise. It triggered and flashed and I jumped up and it was a mess. Good thing he wasn't there when I was trying out this CD. But waterfall, that's not relaxing. This is what I thought of. I thought about Niagara Falls and the big barrel rolling over the Niagara Falls with people, you know, those daredevil people that go over the water. Yeah, that's not relaxing to me. So I discovered waterfall noises, not relaxing. So I used another tool and the beach with birds and waves. That's so relaxing. It's not my jam, right? It's so relaxing. The beach, I love it. That was my thing. For him, it was different. He loved that waterfall noise, not me. Okay, and so you'll discover as you go through the app, that didn't quite work for me. The body scan was relaxing to Melissa, but it might not be relaxing to Kim or, okay. Oh, good, Kim. At first you said 9 minutes, but it was so good to center yourself. Oh, yes, you deserve those 9 minutes. Nice. You deserve it. You deserve it. That's something that we don't do as therapists and counselors, is tell ourselves that we deserve it. I love that. I love that. And yeah, you have so many different options. That's why you're going to play. This is your homework. You're going to play with this app all week. You're going to go through some of the other tools and find what's relaxing. Let's say you did body scan, Julia, and it just was, it just gave you meh. I work with teenagers and that's an emotion, let me tell you. How are you feeling today? Meh. So it really not that good. And so you can change and use another one of the tools. A lot of times when we are under stress, we hold a breath. We don't breathe. And the deep breathing really reminds our brain and our body that we need all that oxygen, especially to make it through the day. And so take that time to breathe. Breathe. Okay, here's my Toya tip sheet. I made this up to help you all, especially newcomers to the app. Body behavior reactions. I noticed that taking a walk or doing one of the body scans, getting up and doing an activity. I bought one of these little watches that tells me how many steps I've had. And so I make sure I'm stepping and moving for no good reason, and just moving around. Using the soothing images, and that can be through the app, or you can actually use some images on your phone or on the television, depending on where you're working for the day. I noticed that really helps to center the body. Brain reactions, the brain really responds to deep breathing. What did y'all learn today? You know about how stress affects the brain. And so if we can get the brain to switch over from sympathetic to parasympathetic branch, it will help the breathing to calm down, using the prefrontal lobe to get the brain to stop the alarm system and to calm down. And so if I'm using words of affirmation, or I'm doing deep breathing intentionally, I'm observing thoughts, or I'm looking around and seeing things within the room. That's what grounding is over here. Noticing, I'm noticing. And y'all, we all heard mindfulness and noticing. So I'm noticing what is around me and what's in the room. And I'm touching things. I have things in front of me you don't see, but of different textures. I have cotton ball, I have different scents, I have things that make noise, and those are to stimulate the senses and to make sure that I stay in the room and I stay within myself, especially if I become very stressed. Scheduling a time to worry. I think in our society, we think, don't worry, shut it out, don't think about it. And that's the opposite of what we need to do. Our brain is telling us, these are some matters that need attention. And so scheduling a small time, 5 minutes, I'm gonna write it down, or I'm gonna think about the worry, but that's also in the app. You can schedule worry. Now it's time to worry about that stuff. Now we're done. We're gonna go into relaxing. What I love about the app is I can jump from worrying to deep breathing and doing a little muscle progression, and I'm done, I'm good. I'm relaxed for today. The mood reactions that you may have, these are some of the tools within the app that I think are most helpful. Grounding, positive imagery, soothing senses, taking a time out. You know what we do? We're workaholics, y'all, and we don't think taking a time out is a good idea because we're not gonna get enough done. However, notice that we tell students, and we tell our own children, and we tell everyone else in our life, take a break. You need to relax. You need to rest. Just take a few minutes, but we don't do it ourselves. So take a time out and tell yourself, take 5 minutes and get up and walk around and wave to people. Even with your mask on, hello, just saying hi, and walk around and then go back and sit down. You will notice just how productive you are. What is so convenient about this app is that you can shut the door and use it for 5 or 9 minutes like we discovered, and then go back to work. What you want to make sure is that you schedule that time and you are intentional about scheduling time for yourself. Even if it's 5 minutes, you will find your brain and your body are able to settle down and you are way, way more productive. Okay, so that's my tips. Now you can create your own tip sheet. And with your own tip sheet, I've given you a handout that explain the domains of life. And so we have these different domains of life where some areas we have mastered, we are good in that area as far as self-care. Then there's some other areas that are a little bit shaky. So you want to choose that area, look at your domains of life sheet or pull that up on your computer and look at the different areas. What is it that I really need to concentrate on? What do I need to focus on? Is it biological? Do I need to do a little bit more walking or get back on that treadmill that has all your clothes hung on it, or walk the dog because he's been wanting to be walked for a while. Taking a couple minutes to play. I have a 9-year-old. She is still in full play mode, and she will take her own break and play and ask me to play too. And sometimes I don't have time to play. Wait, I do. I have 5 minutes to play. Let me take some time to do that. If you're at work, you have time to, greet somebody and talk about what's been going on and how's their garden, and you can take that time to walk around and to move. But is that an area I need to improve in? And what about the psychological domain? Look down through that. Is that something I need to improve in, or my thoughts taking over? Do I need to hush that inner critic? What's going on in that area? How about social and interpersonal? Have I shut everyone out because I don't want this coronavirus? Or are there some ways that I can social distance and still become social and make sure I am feeding my interpersonal relationships? How about intellectual? I love to grab a good book and lay down and just read it and shut the world out. I know, Toya, when do you find time and when is it quiet in my house to be able to do that, is what you're saying to yourself. There are some moments and there's some timeouts and, you know, let me get at least a chapter done within the book. And is that an area where I need to beef up a little bit more? And how about spiritual? So I don't mean religious, it can be religion, and that is wonderful. Spirituality is wonderful. And so are you feeding that spirituality? And that could be, you know, within nature, or that could be an organized religion, going to church or the synagogue or the mosque. I need to really do that. Yeah, I know it's the pandemic, but there's lots of online services and there's lots of things we can do to feed ourselves spiritually. And am I lacking in that? And so is that an area where I really need to make sure it has attention? Choose one of those or two and think about what domain needs attention in your life, okay? So here's an example. You're going to create a tip sheet for yourself, and you can start doing that now. I picked psychological, okay? And so my tip sheet, I put psychological. Sometimes my brain runs fast. When you are a therapist and a counselor, your brain is always analyzing and figuring out and solving problems. We can't shut it off. That's just what we do. I went out the other day. We went to a restaurant outside. My husband and I enjoyed some time together. And all I did was think about how the waitress seemed like she was tired and she was trying really her hardest to be as nice as she could. And I'm observing all these things about her. And I had to tell myself, shut your brain off. This time is for you. But that's something that is really hard for us to do as counselors and social workers. We're always caring about people. So I know psychologically, I have to always stay on top of myself. In the PTSD Coach, observe thoughts, it works really well for me. Affirmations, thought shifting. So I use thought shifting right there. The great thing about using the app is you then begin to become your own coach. And now I can shift my thoughts without saying, hold on, let me whip out my app. You know, in the middle of dinner, I had to say, okay, that's great that you're caring about her, but what about caring about your husband and caring about this delicious dinner and this time that you have together? Let's think about that and shift your thoughts. Okay, and so I use my shifting thoughts. Well, what about interpersonal and social? I know personally for me to have social interaction is life. I am an extrovert. I don't know if y'all could tell from all of, you know, how I am, but I love people. I love to be around people and interact with people. And I really, you know, being a college professor is probably the best profession for me because I interact with people all the time. I love doing trainings and it's so fun. So I need to be around people, and COVID really has been a barrier for that. So I thought of ways that I can still have leisure activity and I can still be connected to people. And so in the app, it has reminders and there's ways that I can plug in. And so I'll put in the very, very fun friends. You know, we have those fun friends and those fun family that no matter how down we feel, they will pick us up and they are super fun. Well, their names are in my phone. And so I remind myself that we can go to the park and we can be 6 feet away and we can take our dogs and we have that leisure activity. And I'm also connecting with my friends. That's my tip sheet. Create your own. I also put in here some prevention. You know, we don't want to get to the point where it gets so bad, and sometimes it does. And so we want to seek help sooner rather than later. But some things that we can do to try to ward off this stress from getting too overwhelming. We can maintain that work, the play, and the rest. A lot of times, and I think this is our American in us, we don't have time to play. We must work, work, work from sun up to sundown. Well, you can do that, but I guarantee someone will replace you in about 6 to 9 months. You just cannot go on at that level. You will burn out, you will fizzle out. You can't drive your car around the city and keep doing laps around the city without going to the gas station and filling it up. It's just logical. And so we have to balance. We have to balance work, play, and rest. Taking regular breaks, being creative. I love art. I'm not an artist whatsoever, but I think I am. This picture behind me, I actually painted, and I thought I did really, really well. But, you know, I'm not an artist. I am a musician and singer. And so I make sure music is a huge part of my life. And I create through music. And that is really, really fun. And that keeps that balance for me. Physically active, I have to get up and move. I'm a mover. I move all the time. But one thing I really want us all to promise ourselves is that we listen to our body. If we have some aches and pains, if we are feeling, you know, sick or dizzy or anything like that, that's the alarm system. That's our bodies telling us, slow it down and put your name in there. Slow it down, Kim. Slow it down, Michelle. Slow it down, Lakia. Okay? Slow it down and make sure that you are responding and taking care of you first. Then you can take care of others. We have this really funny saying in our family: if you don't take care of yourself, you're no good for nobody. And I know all of us, we're like, that's not correct English. Yes, but that reminds yourself that you have to fill your bucket. You have to fill your tank so that you are good for others, okay? And seek help sooner rather than later. Here are just some of my suggestions, but you have your own. You may have your own insurance where you can go to your personal counselor. Counselors need counseling. Therapists need therapy. I don't know if I would go to a therapist that never had therapy. That's strange to me. You know, you have to be able to take care of yourself and know what you need. And sometimes you can't do that alone. And you may need to seek help. Seek it sooner rather than later. Okay? Thank you all so very much. And if there are questions or comments, I am happy to talk further. But I'll turn it over to the host at this time, and I'll follow your lead.
Well, thank you, Toya, and thank you for all of that wonderful information. Oh my goodness, I feel so much more relaxed because
that's great.
I was a nervous wreck before we started, but it really does make a difference. And who would have thought an app for PTSD, like I would have never thought to even download that for myself, you know, but now I'm going to recommend it to a lot of different people. So thank you for sharing that. At this time, I do want to welcome, if anyone has any questions for Toya, anything about the app or just any questions about self-care in general, if you want to put them into the chat. What I'm seeing right now, Toya, are a lot of thank yous and a lot of compliments. So it seems like people really, really needed this. I do want to address, somebody said about they did not receive an email with the handouts. So what we're going to do, I did have the handouts there, you know, the links were there for you. However, after this webinar, every one of you who registered for this webinar, you're going to be receiving a post-webinar survey that we would like for you to fill out so that we can get some feedback. And then also with that email, I'll make sure that you get the copies of the 2 handouts that you can use. And Toya, I don't know, do you recommend using those with our students? Because remember, a lot of us, we're school counselors, so we work with students sometimes pre-K through 12.
Yes.
So is there a way maybe to adapt those handouts to use with different grade level students?
So the gingerbread person, to be gender, yeah. I'm a social worker all day.
Yes.
The ginger person.
The ginger person, yeah.
The ginger person. I use that with kids. I've spent many years, not as much anymore, as you can imagine. My schedule doesn't allow it, but I started as a child therapist, and so I use lots of art techniques with my kiddos. You all can use those sort of things in school. the gingerbread person, you can do exactly what I did with you today with those that come in. Please make tons of copies once you get that. Make as many copies as you like. It is not, all I did was trace a ginger person, and so there's no copyright laws or anything. I didn't create the outline or anything like that. So you can say, what are you feeling? And what I do is I have them list, with teenagers, I have them do an emotional brainstorm. And so they're writing, and I'll do 1 minute. I love timing it because it just makes it more fun. I'll go, you 30 seconds, for no reason. It's just
Right.
yeah.
Right.
And they're writing excited, sad, mad. They're writing all these different, what emotions can someone experience? That's the prompt. Or what emotions do you experience? What feelings do you have? And let them write it all down, okay? Now you'll get some folks that are emotionally cut off, but that's all part of the reaction, right? They're having a hard time coping. And so you can help them out, like sad. Do you ever feel sad? Okay, write that down. And then what other emotions do your friends feel? So make it a third person and help them to be able to do the brainstorm. For little ones, so maybe for your first, second, third, fourth graders, you may have a sheet already made with circles and an emotion next to it, sad, in your little line. Another circle or an oval and have happy. And then you go through, tell me about a time where you felt really sad. And then you make yourself sad too, so that they can really feel that sad. When did you feel that? And what happened? Oh no, your bike broke. That is very sad. And you say, what color would that sad feel like? And you have them color in the oval. It might be blue. And then you use the gingerbread person to say, where did you feel sad in your body? And you have to color it in. So I use that I'm going to tell y'all, adults like the same exercises. So I do it with children and all the way through adults. They love coloring. We like playing. We like coloring. So you can use that exercise and create that. And so please use that. Do that. Absolutely can use that with your kids, especially when they're coming in and feeling the stress of the day. You can pull that thing out and make several sheets. I have several sheets that have emotions and ovals all on it. Don't put the words inside of the oval because they might want to use the inside to write words. Sometimes you'll have folks that want to write words, but I'll have an oval with the emotion right outside and have them go through that. And then they can do the gingerbread person and color in everywhere they feel it. And so it might be here in the shoulders and in the head. And you'll be able to track that, work with the nurse's office, because a lot of times students will come in and have the stomach ache or they'll have the headache, and you can kind of compare notes. Oh, I'm noticing that Julia has headaches and she's in a nurse's office, but look at her gingerbread person and she has all of her emotions in her head. And then sometimes you'll see that connection. So
yeah, that's a great idea. You could also probably track how many times, like how many days in a row are you feeling this way or something like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can rate that. And that 0, that whole scale in the PTSD app, you can use that and you can say, what are you feeling right now? And you can hold that up to them and say, how on the scale from 0 to 10, how high is this fear that you're feeling or how low? You can use that. Or I have a thermometer, and schools always have some kind of big thermometer for some reason.
Right.
You can use that. And you can have them move the Velcro from one spot to the other and show you what they're feeling. Show you how intense they're feeling that specific emotion that you just asked them about.
Yeah, that's perfect. I know that our elementary counselors, that's a lot of what they do, is teaching students what emotions are, so that, sometimes they feel angry, but they don't know how to express what they're feeling. So I see this exercise as helping them to express that. So sure. I really like that.
And giving them permission, because often, in their life, don't be angry. Do not slam the door. They're not allowed to be angry at home quite a bit. Parents are going through enough and they don't want to deal with anger. Yeah, but to give a child permission to be angry, it's like, what? I could be mad? Yes, absolutely. You can be angry and make sure the anger doesn't get you in trouble, because sometimes that anger will. And so how can we keep it at a level? What level can we keep the anger and actually express it? How can we express the anger? In what way will keep you safe, others safe, not get you in trouble? And so you can express anger in all kind of different ways, like this, but not like that, you know?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that too, that they're not just expressing their emotion, but they're able to give us a level of it, so a degree of it. And then how do you come down from a 10 down to a 2? You know, when is it safe to go back to class or
Right. Oh, that's right. That's nice. And yeah, what level and how do you know when you're at a 5? What does that feel in your body?
Exactly.
What it feels like out of 10, what it feels like out of 5, what does it feel like out of 2? What is, you know, and you can go through those different levels with them. This is when you have to go back to class out of 2. Go ahead.
Yep. Now the other, the life domains where we create our own tip sheet. So I'm a high school counselor, so I know I can use that with my high school kids, no problem. And, you know, I can say, this is a tangible, so create your tip sheet and pull it out when you need to use it, you know, remind yourself. So again, I, you know, being aware of the elementary counselors as well, how do you suggest that maybe they could adapt that for use with the younger children?
So the tip sheet is for the counselor. And what we're right now is taking care of other people. No, that's for you.
Got it. Okay.
Use that with teenagers. It is helpful. With a kid, I use feel better bags or make a list of things that help them when they feel scared or angry or upset. And I just use like a little gift bag. I love Dollar Store.
Yeah.
I'm promoting them, they don't pay me, but that's where I get my supplies. But I put things in there that reminds the kid what helps me when I am in distress. And you can use that as for little kiddos, a feel better bag. So it's a gift bag, and I'll put maybe a song in there, or I'll put a little thing of bubbles, because blowing bubbles helps to regulate the breathing. And I'll put that in a little feel better bag. Or I'll have, it just really depends, like a game or something, just a reminder of a game. So maybe it's a picture of their favorite game that they like to play, or it's the jump rope, or, you know, something like that. It's something that you can create with them. And so stock up on little gift bags. I like the plain ones because they can decorate the outside. Yeah. So, but the domains and the tip sheet is for you counselors. Take care of yourself and think about you first. Then think about how you can help your students.
Right. What a typical reaction I just had right there. Like it is so like counselors not to think of themselves first, to think of their students first and everybody else first. I mean, so yeah, there was a definite need for this information today that you provided for us. I can't even believe I did that, but I did it.
But that's what you do. And I'm so glad you did it, because everyone's like, how can I adopt this to my students? Everyone's thinking that, which is wonderful. That's what makes you such good counselors. But you have to put yourself first, and you have to think about how I can put this into my life and make sure that I'm okay first. Make sure I'm taking care of you.
Absolutely. Because it's like you said, if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be any good to anybody else. Yep. So that's the definite message that I want everyone to receive from this webinar here. So,
Absolutely.
So yeah, I'm so grateful to you for being with us today, Toya, and sharing your knowledge. And if, you know, I want to let everyone know that we are recording this webinar so that it will be available. If any of your colleagues out there weren't able to join us this morning, please let them know to go to PSCA's website, which is paschoolcounselor.org, and they will be able to find a recording of this, as well as the handouts that you provided. I'll make sure that they are posted up there as well.
Beautiful. Great.
Yes. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
You're welcome. It's been my pleasure. You all have a wonderful day.
Yes, you too. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. Bye-bye.
At this time now, I'm going to turn it back over to Kim McCurdy from PDE, and she has a special introduction to make for us.
Hi again. So just really excited. This is a lot of great information, and I was so happy that I was able to attend. I took a lot of tips. I downloaded the app. I'm going to be using that so frequently. So just really appreciative of this partnership that we have created over the years and enhanced. So looking forward to seeing you all next time as well. At this time, I'd like to introduce our Deputy Secretary for Post-Secondary and Higher Education at the Pennsylvania Department of Education, Noe Ortega, who October 1st will be transitioning to the Secretary of Education. So we're really excited that he's able to share some closing thoughts with us. Noe?
Can you hear me, Kim? I just want to make sure. Fantastic. Well, thank you for having me, Jen, Stephen, all those associated with the Association of School Counselors. I want to thank you, particularly for the partnership that we've been able to cultivate over the past couple of years. I think I've revealed in the past that my background and development has been sort of in the school counselor and psychology realm. I did that before I crossed over to the dark side of higher education. So I hope you won't hold that against me in any way. But I do relate to a lot of the things that we often discuss, particularly in the meetings in this particular arena. I don't often get the chance to engage quite regularly with a number of our educator workforce, particularly school counselors and school psychologists. But when the opportunity does present itself, it's really a welcome opportunity on my behalf. So I want for the group here to hear directly from me that this is something that will continue both in my new role as acting secretary in the coming weeks, but also with the folks that surround me in terms of my senior team as well, to make sure that we continue to understand the importance of being able to engage with the various professions as we think about addressing the holistic needs of students. So I just wanted to begin by prefacing my remarks today in that way. I know that there'll be several of these symposia that will take place over the next several days, if not the weeks. And I know today's topic is really about self-care, about being in tune with sort of the mental and well-being of yourself as you think about how you're going to engage or have already begun to engage with the work, which is something that's a big topic of discussion that we have from time to time within our Office of Post-Secondary and Higher Education, but as well as our senior team as well. As you can imagine, like many of you, when March came around and we had to make all the pivots to COVID, a lot of challenges began to play out. The biggest was that we began to get taxed with our time, like many of you have, but also sort of like our mental ability to be able to cope with all the developments, right? It's one thing to say that you can operate in ambiguity and make decisions in that area, which many of us probably can do and thrive in some cases. But it's another thing to be able to sustain that over a long period of time. And I think that's a real challenge, particularly when you're not precisely sure what exactly you should be doing with regards to responding to an event. I don't want to create panic in folks to say that we do not know what we're doing in terms of the things that affect us, but the things that are beyond our reach have to do with many of the items that I think a lot of you think about on a regular basis. We are being asked to think about things that people who have been trained as medical experts, epidemiologists, know really, really well, and trying to figure out how to quickly learn some of this information and begin to adapt it to the decisions that we make in our profession, but also for those that we serve, right? The students, parents, families, and communities. And that's a real challenge, particularly when you think that what's at stake here is not so much something that ends up being a learning milestone that folks either navigate or don't navigate very successfully, but this actually could result in death for some folks. And that's a very, very concerning thing, including for ourselves. And I think that's what was a real challenge for us to begin to deal with. The repercussions were all of a sudden weighing heavily on us, and we had to figure out a way to compartmentalize the various aspects in order to be able to move forward. And so as I think about the apps that were shared today, the rubrics that were shared with regards to ways to really begin to compartmentalize the way that we reconcile some of the challenges and hurdles that we face every day with our own kind of personal care and development, I think that's really important. And I can't emphasize how important that has been in my work as well, and something that we emphasize from time to time. I really do like that the biggest pivot that I've seen, particularly in the policy workforce, because I think the space of education has long embraced the idea of mental health and well-being for ourselves and others. We're beginning to see that kind of spill over into other parts of profession, and I think it's really important. I think we make better decisions when we're healthy and we're more aware, but we're also better positioned to be of assistance to those who we serve, right? And I think that's a real important thing that I want to make sure that gets anchored in all the interactions that we have and the way that we think about all our work. We are better for others when we can really begin to tend to some of the things that may be serving as affective factors for ourselves. And I think that's something that more folks need to begin to be mindful of, particularly when the needs that students are going to expect of us, or their expectations of us, are just going to begin to change exponentially, right? What used to be a role that we played that maybe had some boundaries, now those boundaries no longer exist, particularly in scenarios with folks maybe teleworking or engaging with us in a virtual remote space. More things happen when you're engaging with folks when they are not in your environment of comfort, which is our schools, but when they are in their environments, which may come with comforts, but may also expose a number of discomforts. And I think we have to be better prepared to engage with that. And the only way to be able to do that is to really have some clarity in terms of what we're doing. So I applaud the association, the profession, for thinking about this. I applaud you for making this the first part of the scaffolding for the symposia. I think the better we are prepared to sort of tend to ourselves as we engage with future content in the symposia, you can approach it from a better mindset, right? I also want to sort of put a bookmark on the fact that it's not very easy to always apply the number of things that are recommended to us in terms of improving our livelihood. And I think when I think about time and the pressures that we have and the constraints on time, particularly when you have these new platforms that don't seem to be able to operate within the same kind of limitations and constraints that you normally have on time. It used to be where I would schedule in the 15 or 20 minutes it would take me to head over to the next meeting, or the time that it would take me to drive from one location to the other. And I've forgotten how dependent I was on those particular moments, even though that they were small, but those spells were really important for me to sort of calibrate on what the next topic was going to be, give myself some time to sort of unpack what maybe I just heard or learned, and then refocus myself to be present for the next group, right? And that's no longer available to us in the same way that it was before. And so, I think as we begin to reclaim our space as professions in this new platform, I think we have to be mindful about learning how to reestablish those parameters in a way that's not disruptive, but I think that become the new kind of norms in the profession that are understood by folks as we continue to find ourselves in this role. At least for us as a department, we're not entertaining going back to the office to full in person until after the month of December. But we're beginning to think about what that's going to look like. And one of the things that we're doing is not just rethinking parameters of time, but also rethinking the way that we utilize space in the structures that we've become so accustomed to. And I think that's a really important lesson to sort of generalize across all other areas. It used to be that we looked forward to settings of congregation only for the purpose of being around other folks, and we weren't able to utilize them in the way that's needed. Now we're being asked the question, when do you engage in those spaces and when is it going to be worthwhile? Are you engaging in those spaces because that is just the norm of what you're accustomed to? Or can you repurpose the way that you interact with folks in a way that's more helpful? And then it really makes teleworking something that we can begin to engage with, because that in and of itself is also one of the things that many of us have been dealing with in terms of another affective factor that's been challenging. So, you know, these are the things that I wanted to sort of air out as both remarks to the closing of this day, but also to highlight some of the things that we're beginning to think about as a department that clearly will make its way into the resources that we're preparing for all of our workforce that's out there, both in the K through 12 early childhood space, but also in the adult basic education and higher ed space or post-secondary space, which is really important. We have begun to release some resources, and I will share with Kim a few of the links that are on our websites to sort of elevate them with a few folks. A number of them have to do with mental health and well-being as well, with a real emphasis on what that means for you as a professional, but also on what you can how you can utilize them to interact with the students, staff, or other folks that you may serve in your role that go beyond what is the traditional scope of the work. And so those are going to be really, really helpful. We continue to develop those both as tools for educators, but also as ways for folks who utilize these resources to be able to interact with them. So I think that's really important. We've not done a good job of putting together resources that can be used in the post-secondary space. And so I think what we're trying to do is to figure out how we could work with the experts that exist at our institutions of higher education and elevate the good work that they've done. And to a certain extent, that's probably the question that we're going to start to ask ourselves as well in the K through 12 and early childhood and early intervention space as well, because I think there's a number of things that have already been out in sort of the landscape of the various education sectors that I think we simply need to find a way to repurpose or simply just promulgate and disseminate through the state as well in terms of resources. So I want to encourage you through the association to share those resources with us. Kim McCurdy, as well as other folks on our staff, have availed themselves to you in terms of being liaisons between the work that you do and how we could better engage as partners. And so that will continue to happen. And I think that represents a really good space where we could continue to have those exchanges of resource that I think will be worthwhile. Again, I kind of want to conclude one more time by thanking the group with regards to the way that we've been able to work together throughout the time that I've been here. It's been 3 years. We worked really hard at the beginning to establish some level of momentum. And I feel like now, 3 years into this partnership, we've gotten really good at being meaningful collaborators in this particular space. And I only anticipate that we will continue to get better. I don't want to credit the fact that someone like Kim McCurdy was a product of these type of establishments, because we did run into each other as we were going out there to try to better engage with our partners out in the field. But she certainly has. And I think being able to acquire someone like Dr. Kim McCurdy, who can continue this work and really situate the state education agency as a resource, but also as someone who can learn from the associations, is extremely important and really taps into the philosophy of how I envision pursuing a lot of our work moving forward. I've come out of higher ed, and higher ed has a certain mentality as they engage with the state. And that is that the resources are best left in the area where they tend to be incubated and developed, right? So I do think that being respectful of what comes out of the K through 12, what comes out of the early childhood space and the post-secondary space, that's where the development happens in the incubation. The state should simply look to identify what those are and elevate them. When the opportunity presents itself to direct resources in that direction, that's what we should do. And then when we are in a position to be able to develop resources, we should invite our partners into those discussions to make sure that they're reflective of, number one, the work they've done, but also the thinking that they've been able to do by engaging with all the stakeholders we serve on a regular basis. And that's something that I want to make sure that we're mindful of as we think about what we're putting forward in the next couple of years while I serve in my new role. with that, Kim, Jen, and others, that concludes sort of my remarks. I'm happy to offer up any context around questions you may have, if that's okay. I know you have a little bit of time. That's okay as well.
Well, Secretary Ortega, I just want to thank you on behalf of our association for a commitment to a partnership between PDE and PSCA, as well as just the fact that, you know, the recognition of school counselors seems to be prominent now within PDE, and we truly do appreciate that. I'm not sure if anyone here does have any questions for you. This is a great opportunity. It's not often we get to have the Secretary of Education with us. So if you have any, you could definitely put those in the chat. In the meantime, if I can take a few minutes, I just want to share the upcoming symposiums that we do have scheduled so far. Let me put those up on the screen here for you guys. So you can see these will happen. We have 2 more scheduled right now, and they will be next Tuesday as well as the following Tuesday. So the next one, Tuesday, September 29th, is going to be on MTSS as well as Counselor Tech Tools. Our own President Steve Sharp will be sharing his knowledge with us on that one. And then the following one, that's on October 6th, we will have Laura Frederici from the department as well to talk about career readiness skills and all things related to careers. So I really want to encourage all of you here at the call on the webinar today, as well as any of your colleagues, if you would spread the word. They can go to our website to paschoolcounselor.org/reentry to register for these webinars as well. But also, I just want to reiterate that these webinars are being recorded. So if this time slot is not conducive, you know, we're all back to work now, whether that is face-to-face, virtual, hybrid, whatever environment you're in. If this time slot is not a good time slot for you, then take some time and go back and watch the recordings on our website. Especially this one from today on self-care. I just thought that this one is very important for all of us, especially in this stressful time that we're going through right now, just trying to figure it all out in this new environment. Okay, I don't really see any questions for you, but everyone is very complimentary and thanking you. I'd like to ask the other people here if our President Steve Sharp and our President-elect Jen Kirk, as well as Kim, if you wouldn't mind just giving us a little wave and saying goodbye to all of our people who are here today with us, and just letting you guys know that PSCA is here for you. And now that we've formed a strong partnership with PDE, we'll be able to share all those resources with you guys to hopefully make your jobs a little bit easier and to definitely serve our students better. So just want to thank everyone for being here today, and to let you know that I hope to see you again at one of our future webinars. Thanks again, guys.